I've never seen government racial discrimination like this, he said, of Donald Trump's stripping of NIH grants. This is William Young, a district court judge in Massachusetts, 84 years old. After 40 years on the bench, he was appointed by Ronald Reagan, like I said before. He's never seen so much. Essentially, it was related to a couple of cases that have been consolidated where 16 states attorney generals, some public health organizations, and some research grantees who were affected was like, there's a racial animus for this. We're talking about research related to cardiovascular health, Alzheimer's, sexually transmitted disease, alcoholism abuse in minors, and they were looking specifically in researching how they impact specific communities based on ancestral links. So, for example, I have sickle cell trait. My sister has sickle cell disease. That disease has a higher propensity in African Americans and Black people. So they stripped that away because it mentions us. How is that not racist? And anything related to trans or people of color, they don't want studies or any research that protects us or looked after our interests, even if this research may impact everyone. The judge was like, whoa. So essentially, he was like, all those grants need to be taken, returned back. Specifically, he said that there's a palpable racial bias behind them. They took away 367 grants that reference DEI, but really it's because like Black maternal health. Like it's a fact that Black women die in childbirth at a higher rate and a disproportionate higher rate compared to other people. So they don't want any studies related to that. A lot of these programs go to redress existing harms. Like most people cannot deny racist slavery existed. Like Jim Crow was a real thing. The impact of redlining, the impact of a lot of little discriminatory practices from the government continue. And so any study that's going to redress that, the Trump administration is like, no, we cannot help those people because if we help them, they may be able to compete. I don't know what they're thinking. So for example, there was a mental health grant that was flagged because it says community health for underserved women. Like if you're underserved, if you're already struggling, they don't want you to have any help, especially if you're Black or brown. Um, they singled them out just because of the equity language, or just because of terms. Separate from health, there was an NEA has a Challenge America Arts Grant that was canceled. It was like small arts groups serving underserved communities because it highlights and benefits of communities of color. Is we like they don't want anything to help communities of color. There was an EPA had a $600 million environmental justice grants, thriving communities, to help low income and Black Latino communities that suffer from environmental justice. Because it's a fact that a lot of times plants were located, pollution, they were dumping in those communities that polluted them, that caused those communities to have higher rates of cancer. There's a thing in Louisiana called Cancer Row, and the communities that are impacted from Cancer Row are Black and brown community. So any grant that's going to redress that, to fix those problems, to like reverse the damages of a dumping or pollution, they don't want that, the Trump administration, because they do not want to help Black and brown communities get any relief or redress any harms caused by the government racial practices in the past. That's essentially what they're saying. It's like, do not help those people. Stop. We don't want it. Then there was a minority business development agency, as a federal hub for minority-owned businesses. Because it contained the word minority, they wanted it cut. I mean, they reestablished a 1776 commission to try to reframe honest discussion of slavery and racism and call it unpatriotic. Like they don't want the truth. Like it's unpatriotic to mention the truth about the impacts of slavery and the impact of the Reconstruction era, the Jim Crow era. All that stuff is unpatriotic to talk about it. Like don't talk about the truth. And it's crazy. He rescinded the executive order wiping out federal contract affirmative action based on race and gender. And white women, this impacts you guys too. So essentially, they were just flagging. There was internal guidance told agencies to scrutinize or freeze proposal containing the words diversity, equity, inclusion, intersectional, Black, women, LGBTQIA. So the judge was like, this is just discrimination. Like, what the freak? Can't do this. The government warned grantees using terms such as, anything that helps marginalized communities. It was like, the judge was like, no, what the hell? It was a target list. The programs are slashed because they help constituencies named in their titles, because they say they help Black people, slash, minorities, slash, women of color, slash. So it's clearly just racial discrimination, and it's just ridiculous. It said a disparate impact. The cuts fall hardest on the Black, brown, women, LGBTQA, and low-income communities by design, not accident. And low-income communities include communities that are majority white as well. So whatever. So it's like an impact or their intent to hurt trans community, Black and browns community. They're also impacting Trump supporters and Trump voters, because the low income includes a whole bunch of people who voted for Donald Trump. When you have those programs that help those communities, a lot of times it is Black and brown communities, but there's plenty. Go to Appalachia, go to the South. There's plenty of those grants that help communities. That anyway, the court said that they were unconstitutional, but hopefully to God they don't get appealed. If they get appealed, that the Supreme Court acknowledges that they didn't pass muster. There's very little basis for them. The Administrative Procedure Act requires a robust findings of facts, of data, of research, of analysis, public comment before you do something like what was going on with these executive orders. They didn't do that. In the environmental justice case, for example, that judge, Adam Abelson, said that the agency's rationale against environmental justice was insufficient and illegally motivated. It's motivated by racism. I really do want to find, there's a guy who, I was doing some content on TikTok, who was like, I'm from New York. Donald Trump's not racist. That's just how we are in New York. I want to follow him and say, do you really still think that he's not racist, that he doesn't, that he's shipping in white people saying there's a genocide? If there's a real genocide, how come only 57 to 59 people answer the call, where he's shut off the temporary protective status for nations that have actual genocide, like South Sudan and Cameroon, that actually experiencing real genocide because they're genocide of Black people? He's like, no, go back to the countries who experienced genocide. We're going to bring in some whites and say they're being persecuted. And only 57 of them answer the call, which is a sign that it's not. So the man is racist. Oh my God, I really want to find that guy, because he's just was trying to tell me, stop, no, Rachel, simp little Uncle Sam's, Uncle Tom's sketcher fetcher. Anyway, yeah. So now when you see someone out in the wild and they using the terms like DI, we've always said when you say DI, really essentially that's the N word, whether you believe it or not. When you're someone who's against DI and you use the word DI, we know what you're really trying to say. And now we have a judge that agreed and affirmed that. When you say anti-woke, we always ask them, define woke. They can't define it. Essentially, woke just means empathy, caring, inclusion, and wanting to understand, recognize the interests of other people, and include different voices. And they don't want those different voices included. They want status quo. They want those voices repress, suppress, marginalize, back to the sides. They want to recenter whiteness, recenter and elevate whiteness, whether it's mediocre, whether it's earned or not. They want to recenter and make, essentially elevate white supremacy and continue white supremacy. So all these efforts to dismantle it and create some sort of equity, equality, or let different voices in, they don't want that. That's essentially what you're saying in anti-woke. Is there's racism. And so now we have a judge to agree with us. So he's just like, 40 years I've been on the bench. I've never seen government sanctioned racism. He's like, there's a racial animus. It's just, you just want to discriminate against Black and brown people and trans people. The end, point blank. Now you have a judge that says that. It's like, thank you, judge. So I pray to God that, I'm sure the Trump administration is going to appeal it. I pray to God that it doesn't get appealed, and it doesn't get that if it does get appealed, that it stands. And if the Supreme Court sees it, please stand it. And if they don't, we really, I've had high hopes of the Supreme Court. I really am disappointed in the way that they've actually granted Donald Trump, accepted all his crazy emergency orders, and then stayed the lots of the challenges or other lower court, district courts judges stopping the unconstitutional actions and executive orders, and the Supreme Court is stepping in to pause them while they work their way through the court system. And the pausing actually is going to hurt these communities. So it doesn't even make sense. I'm really disappointed. I didn't expect that. I'm flabbergasted. I'm hoping to God that they just gave him the early procedural wins, because when it comes to substance, hopefully they recognize that the majority of the court anyway, that those executive orders can't stand on substance, because a lot of them are based on nothing. They're not based on any research, any facts, just ideology, feels, racism, sexism, xenophobia, and the like. That's it. The end. Anyway, I'm JJ Legal on social media. I help people understand the different lawsuits filed against the Trump administration. If you're interested in that, follow along, share this video with friends. So that's an excellent win. Yay. Watch this playlist next. You watch this on YouTube.